as well. So thank you all again. And without further ado, I'm going to have, we're going to go to the next slide, Carlene, and then we'll have a word from Ben Burdick, our Managing Director.
Thank you very much, Kaylin. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our roundtable. As Kaylin said, my name is Ben Burdick. I'm the Managing Director here at the DCSEU. I've been at the DCSEU almost 14 years in this role, just began this role earlier this spring, but really excited to welcome everybody in today. We've been hosting these sorts of roundtables for many years. It's really a great opportunity from our account management team and from our partners at IMT and the Hub, just to allow vertical markets, variety of different vertical markets. We've met with hospitals, we've met with commercial real estate, we've met with multifamily properties. It just allows these vertical markets to really share information, guidance, best practices, especially around benchmarking, building energy performance standards, and what assistance is available here in the district, and just really compare notes between your different teams around the city here of what you're doing to be in compliance with BEPS, the things that you're doing to pursue sustainability projects at your campuses around the district. So I'm really excited to have you here today. I want to first thank the Institute for Market Transformation, IMT, and the Building Innovation Hub, their continued partnership on these roundtables and on our webinars, just to really help district property owners continue on their BEPS journeys, continue on their benchmarking journeys, with support from the DCSEU and IMT and the Hub. It's really important, and they've been a terrific partner here for us and for the district in general, for property owners and managers, just to navigate these journeys. We continue to look forward to helping universities around the district tackle upgrades that can save them money, reduce emissions, help them pursue their sustainability goals here in the district. Obviously, our team here at the DCSE, our account management and engineering team, has been working with universities for more than a decade here to just help with those things. And we'll continue to do that into the future here with Crystal McDonald, with Yvonne Coles, with our engineering team, continue to support you as you move forward and try to pursue your sustainability goals at your universities. Lastly, I just want to say thank you very much to Josh Lasky for joining us today as the Interim Assistant Vice President for Resilience at George Washington University. Really excited to hear his perspective. GW's done a lot of this work. We've worked very closely with them over the years, so really excited to have him talk about his perspective from GW. And with that, I will just hand it off to my colleague, Patty Boyd, Director of Technology and Innovation, to really formally kick off the session. But again, very excited to have everybody here today and continue these conversations. And if there's anything we can do in the future, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. So Patty, I'll hand it off to you.
Great. Thank you, Ben. And thanks everyone for joining us. I know time is, very valuable, so we really appreciate when you will take time out of your busy schedules to come work with us. And as Ben said, share best practices, peer-to-peer learnings, things like that. And as he said, we've had different iterations of our university roundtables throughout the years. I've been here, I was engineering manager, I think, at the time when we were first having these university roundtables. I've been here now 13 years. So I know a lot of roles have changed, and I see a lot of new names, and then I see some names of people where locations have changed. And it's just great to see some of the people that have been with us partnering with the DCSEU for a long time, and then the new ones that are coming in now and learning about what the DCSEU has to offer. So we're excited about that. Okay, so here's our agenda. I'm just going to go through it really quick. First, we're going to have the Building Innovation Hub, Yolanda Bonner, speak. She's the Associate Director of Building Performance. Go through a little bit on BEPS and BEPS with universities. And then, as Ben said, we have Josh Lasky here to do a spotlight. He's got several slides on what they've been doing over at the George Washington University. Very excited to hear about that. And then we'll get into our standard, DCSEU, what do we have to offer you? And Yvonne Coles, our manager of account management, who focuses on universities, among other things, will lead you through those slides. And then we'll have a Q&A. And we have a bunch of people here on our site, I think 12 people or something, that can help answer questions. If you have technical questions or next steps on projects that you want to get in touch with us, we're really here to help. That's our intention. So with that, I will hand it over to Yolanda. And thank you again, everyone, for coming and joining this session.
Thanks, Patty. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to join our colleagues and our friends over at DCSEU. And so we're just going to jump right on into this. Like Ben said, we've been doing these roundtables for a while, and we decided to change up how we're going to do the roundtable this time around. But before I get into all of that, I want to go ahead and introduce my team, my colleagues. We are a strong crew over at the Hub, and we produce a ton of resources that are free and available to you at any time. And I think through my presentation and during my presentation, I am going to reiterate how important it is for you to tap into the Hub's website, sign up for the Hub's newsletter, and pull out some of these resources, print them out, put them in a little binder in your office. Like Patty mentioned, there's a lot of new faces, there's a lot of turnover. It will be to your benefit to print these resources out, put them in a binder, store them in your office to help you stay on top of the policy. But the team at the Hub, of course, Director Teresa Backus, Associate Director Mary Thomas, and then you also have myself. Thank you, Alexandra, for dropping the link in the chat for the Building Innovation Hub. And so most people may not be familiar with the Hub. I hope that most of you are. Next slide, please. A little bit about us. The Hub, the Building Innovation Hub, is a project of IMT. We help building industry professionals in and around the Washington, D.C. area create and operate high-performing buildings. The Hub connects professionals and provides information and programming and all types of technical assistance. The goal of the Hub is to meet the current needs of the building industry while simultaneously pushing the industry towards the innovative solutions that we will need to build and operate high-performing buildings. Next slide, please. So we are a small team. We produce and create resources all day, every day. And like I mentioned earlier, we typically start these calls with a deep and in-depth conversation on the BEPS. But we do feel like by now, most of you, if not all of you, should be very much familiar with the BEPS. So we're going to do a quick 5 to 7 minute overview of the BEPS. But if you feel like you're lost and you still need additional information, it's okay. There are links at the bottom of these slides that will take you to, oh man, a plethora of resources. We have a one-pager for you that you can print out and store in your office. There's policy updates and changes that are stored, that are listed in those links. So don't feel bad if you don't fully understand it. If you came to this and you still don't know the BEPS and you're looking to understand it on this call, it's okay. We offer one-on-one. You can reach out to us and talk to us one-on-one to get that assistance, or you can take advantage of the links that we provided in these toolkits for you to have that in-office and step-by-step process right at your fingertips. So the quick overview, next slide is, what is BEPS? What is the Building Performance Standard Policy? It's the basic concept. The BEPS is a set threshold for energy performance for existing buildings. These standards are based on and measured against a building's demonstrated energy performance, as shown in their benchmarking data. The metric is Energy Star score for eligible buildings. Then there are some buildings that would have to go by source EUI, otherwise known Energy Utility Intensity score. So that is the basics of the BEPS. Next slide. And again, if you have questions, drop them in the Q&A, but we're going to make this piece of the presentation fairly quickly. We always like to talk about how these goals are linked to DC's goals, or how this policy is linked to DC's goals. And we know that buildings account for 70% of greenhouse gas emission in DC. And it's that created the Building Energy Performance Standards, also known as the BEPS, as a way of meeting the it is currently to reduce greenhouse gas emission and energy consumption by 60% by 2030. So the BEPS program works by setting those standards for the energy performance of buildings. Next slide, please. Another key resource in the BEPS, and these may be like bullet points, so I apologize for that, Colleen. Another key point in the BEPS is benchmarking. This is something that most of you, if not all of you, have had to do in the last year or two. But benchmarking, it pertains to buildings that are subject to benchmarking based on their floor area. If you're required to benchmark your building, you must track your energy and water usage annually using Energy Star Portfolio Manager and report it to the Department of Energy and Environment by May the 1st of each year. And that date is subject to change based on legislation. I know a lot of you know that there was a lot of talk that the BEPS could be paused or done with or did away with. We will talk about that a little later in the slides, but as of right now, it's still in place. And two things that we want you to remember about benchmarking is that it's definitely linked. And you have to track that energy and water usage in Energy Star Portfolio. If you don't have an account, please get one set up. If you have an account, please make sure that your username and your password and information is stored somewhere where it's accessible. Again, the high turnover, the new faces, some people leave with this information and it is a struggle to get it back. It is a struggle to connect with DOEE to help you get it back. So please keep that information handy and remember to submit your annual report to DOEE by the set deadlines. Next slide, please. So building size requirements, the BEPS is set by building size thresholds. You have your 50,000 square feet, you have your 25,000 square feet, and then you have cycle 3, which will include 10,000 square feet. Buildings that meet the standard during the baseline year do not need to take any immediate action, but if they do not meet the next standard, they will need to prepare for the next deadline. So regardless if your building meets it now, and it's always a good idea to do a prolonged or a proactive measure to get yourselves together because this is a timely process. There's a lot involved in it and you can miss it if you wait to the last minute to try to prepare for it. And for buildings that do not meet the energy performance standard for their size and their building type, DOEE will provide a set amount of time for you to comply with those requirements. And this is called a compliance cycle. Again, there are links in this presentation that will take you directly to what those compliance cycles are, the most popular compliance cycles, and you should also have this information when you're doing an energy audit. So whoever you decide to hire or go with during your energy audit, they typically suggest the type of compliance cycle you should look into or you should follow, but it's totally up to the building which compliance cycle they choose to go with. But just remember, it's all size-based. So buildings 50,000 and 25,000 square feet, you're in it now. Cycle 3 will begin those buildings 10,000 square feet and greater. Next slide, please. And then finally, another key resource in the BEPS that you should be familiar with is a snapshot review of the cycle. We're currently in this first cycle, and this is something I tell everybody to print out because one thing that I have noticed is that people would do their benchmarking or their third-party verification work and stop. They think that's it. They think nothing else is done, nothing else is due, no more preparedness on their end. That's not true. Printing out this cycle actually helps you stay on top of the policy. And if you take a look at the middle of the screen, there's an orange asterisk, which highlights where we currently are in this process. And if you go down a little further, you can also see where those standards reset. So again, like stated earlier, if you're not required this year or during this cycle, there's a possibility you could be required to do it in the next cycle. So pay attention to all of the details that come out from DCSEU, from the hub, DOEE. Take those things and benchmark them and save them so that you can always be on top of your BEPS and the process and the policy itself. Next slide, please. So one of the key aspects of putting this call together is to talk you guys through resources that are available to you from both DCSEU and from the hub. We do a lot of outreach, we do a lot of engagement, and we do a lot of conversations. And we find that a lot of buildings are still struggling to understand what's available to them to help them be successful in this space, whether it be technical assistance, finding a vendor, or hiring the right employees. It could just be simple scope of work and different types of, I would say, case studies to help you understand how someone else did it. But there are a ton of resources on the Hub's website, and I'm going to highlight, I think, about 4 of the most popular or the most important resources that you should tap into after this call. And we're going to start with the retro commissioning and scope of work. So one of the first resources that we always like to talk to people about is this resource. And we all know that one of the most cost-effective ways to improve building performance and comply with BEPS is the retro commissioning, also known as the existing building commissioning. It's a systematic process that helps evaluate and improve an existing building's energy performance by testing the existing system, identifying measures for improvement, implementing those changes to the system, training owners and operators how to improve existing systems. And last summer, the Hub did create 2 specific resources to help you understand how it works, best practices, and how it might apply to your building. One of those resources is the sample scope of work, which is linked in these slides. It helps you define retro commissioning activities, roles at your property. And in addition, we've also created an ancillary template for you to download separately and use with your selected provider. We also have a retro commissioning blog post that was, I think it was produced last summer as well, that allows you to see firsthand how local entities here in the district have utilized and capitalized on the retro commissioning. So the little purple boldness that you see in those slides, those are also links, but at the very end, there will be more links for you to click into. I wanted to make these links user-friendly and easily accessible for you, so I tried my best to link them in multiple places through the slides. I'm sorry, go ahead to the next slide, please. Another key highlight is your energy audit. We highly recommend you get an energy audit. It will help you get a full understanding of how your building uses energy or what type of energy efficient measures are needed to meet the BEPS. We discussed what types of energy audits you should seek to get, which is the ASHRAE level 2, but you're not required to get that. You definitely can get any of the other levels, but we do suggest that you get the ASHRAE level 2 because it's more detailed, and the audit, it kind of speaks for itself. It helps you understand what is needed, and the vendor is also able to speak to you through what processes and steps you need to take to meet the BEPS. So that ASHRAE level 2 is a little bit more detailed, but like we stated, you don't have to get the ASHRAE level 2. It's totally up to you. The Hub also created a sample energy audit scope of work to help you with hiring vendors, and this scope of work can also be downloaded on our website. So all of the information that a vendor is supposed to give to you in a normal scope of work from their side, our scope of work has it as well. So if you don't have one and you kind of want to make sure that you're getting the right information from that vendor, feel free to download our scope of work and do a comparison side by side, making sure you're getting the right information. And speaking of vendors, next slide, please. Next slide. Oh, thank you. There we go. So speaking of vendors, one of the, I like to call my favorite resource at the Hub is the Find a Vendor portal. I was on a call a couple of months ago with the coalition, and it had some university individuals on the call, and listening to them speak, they all spoke to the fact that they struggle with finding the right vendor to help get this work done. I've actually seen firsthand what happens when a building chooses a vendor out of state that is not familiar with the DC requirements and qualifications. They typically do this to save money, and in the end up spending more money. And so what we did here was created a free tool resource. So one thing I want to highlight, if you know vendors that provide building service work, send them to this portal so they can be into the portal. We do all the vetting, all the credentialing. We make sure that all of their information is up to date so that we are connecting you with vendors that, all right and set by standard. And also tapping into this portal helps move out the middleman. All the hard work is done for you. You go into the portal, you tell us what you need. For instance, third-party verification, we are benchmarking, we do those. We just had our first electrical request from a contractor somewhere. I'm sorry, a building up in Northwest. And that was kind of cool to see because we typically only get these compliance requests. And so we're now starting to see requests for different maintenance types for like HVAC, electrical, lighting, and things like that. So tap into this tool. There are over, I think now we're somewhere between 180 and 200 vendors in this system. It's free. It's free for the vendor to sign up. It's free for you to tap into and utilize. We're currently in the process of updating it right now. A lot of it was done manually to where when a building would send a request, it would come to us electronically, but then we would have to take time, run through our list, sort our list, and then VCC these vendors. Right now, we're currently working on putting all of that into the system. And it's a little time consuming and it's taking a little bit longer than what we thought it would, but it's definitely worth it. And it also takes a lot of the stress off your plate. So again, I say bookmark it, save it. If you're ever looking for a vendor, it's right there at your fingertips. Next slide, please. And then here's the list of additional resources that I spoke to earlier. You have a BEPS, an overview of BEPS, including FAQs that will answer pretty much every question you may have concerning this policy. We have up-to-date plain speak articles on the BEPS standards and rules and the BEPS compliance guidebook, including pathway requirements, which I spoke to earlier, exemptions, delays, and penalties. We talk about the best ways to go about connecting with DOEE if you feel like you're not going to be able to make a compliance deadline, if you're struggling with getting data from PEPCO or Washington Gas, if you received a penalty and you don't think it's accurate, we talk about ways that navigate you through the DOEE portal beam to connect with them and talk to them about your options after you receive those types of compliant checks. But there's a ton of information there. I think there's an answer to every question you may have in the Building Innovation Hub's resource library. You can download that one pager that I also spoke about, and it talks about BEPS and meeting codes. And there's an overview of technical amendments to the BEPS passed by DC Council in December 2024, and it's pending legislation. And I'm glad we stated that because the pending legislation was actually cleared and verified back in July, next slide please, of 2025. And there's a link for a blurb that we included in these slides as well that talks about the update to that pending legislation. I don't know if Teresa is on the call or not.
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, there she goes. So she can, I'm going to stop and allow her to give a few spills on that legislation and the changes and the updates or the lack thereof. And Teresa, turn it over to you.
Sure, thanks. Hi, everybody. I know this is a lot of information, and I know, you've kind of been exploring the BEPS and other policies probably for a couple of years. If you still feel like you're new to this, that's okay. That's why we're here to help, and that's why we're talking today. A quick update. You may have heard some back and forth over the last few months about potential delays to key regulations. So I want to just spend some time to clarify where those things stand. The DC budget, as you know, for fiscal year 2026 was officially approved. At one point, there was a proposal that the BEPS timeline be pushed back. Ultimately, those proposed delays were not included in the final budget passed by DC Council. So there is no pause on the BEPS. That means the current timeline is still in effect. And as Yolanda covered, the details of that are that this current BEPS compliance cycle, which applies to buildings 50,000 square feet and up, ends December 31st, 2026. So, however, and this is another reason we're talking today, is that might sound like it's a far way off, but really when you think about it, you need a full year of energy benchmarking prior to that date in order for the district to see whether or not you've improved your energy performance. So really that means you need to have your retrofit work completed by December 31st of this year is essentially what that means. And so time is of the essence now. So This is why we're here talking to you about what DCSEU has to support you in this effort and how we can help you get across that finish line. And then, so the BEPS was not delayed. The BEPS cycles 2 and 3 still remain as it currently stands on their current timeline. As the applicability lowers, or the size threshold lowers each cycle, more and more buildings will be subject to the BEPS. So just, the takeaway here is nothing has changed in terms of the timeline. One other thing I'll say is that the energy code, while it's not the same regulation as the BEPS, there was a proposal in the budget that would also push back the timeline of the NEDSER energy code. That proposed delay was also removed from the final budget. So that means that the current trajectory is still in effect, which means that either the district needs to introduce a new net zero energy code by the end of 2026, or that a currently voluntary pathway, you might have heard it, known as Appendix Z, will become mandatory. Again, not related to the BEPS, but just something to keep your eyes on that you might be talking about amongst yourselves and amongst your teams. So that's a lot of information. I'm sure we'll go into more detail. And again, always feel free to reach out if you have any specific questions on how these policies apply to you.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you so much for that. Carlene, could we jump over to the next slide? So this slide here talks a little bit more about those updates. And again, there's a link there for you to tap into, to connect to, and save. Again, the best way to keep up with all of this information is by signing up for the Hub's newsletter, because we send these blurbs out, these alerts out. Our social media accounts are also updated with all of these changes. So if you don't follow us there, please follow us. We'd like to have you there. Next slide, please. Before I say thank you, I do want to highlight another resource that we have that I realized is probably pretty critical in this space as well. My background is in facilities and operations, and I know how crucial or critical it is having in-house staff like maintenance techs, electricians, and individuals of the sort in your building to help you meet these goals as well. And so the Hub did partner with DOEE to create what we call the Capital Region Green Buildings Career Map. We're currently working or looking for ways to hit the second phase of developing it. But currently it is just a career map simply for the building industry space. We have it broken down into a multitude of job levels: entry level, mid-level, senior level. And you can kind of navigate your space or your job career or a job career path through this career map. So we try to gear it towards high school students, college students, workforce development programs. Anyone can take advantage of this space, because we're finding that a lot of people still don't know about this green space, and getting the certificates and the training that they need are also linked in there, so they don't have to go and research what's needed to obtain a certain career. It's also there, and I'm going to drop a link in the chat for that career map, as I also say thank you and hand it over to Josh. On the screen are some links for the Building Innovation Hub, our LinkedIn account, and all of those things to connect with us. So thank you, and Josh, I'll hand it off to you.
Terrific. Thanks, Yolanda. I appreciate it. Wow, that is a large picture of me. Apologies for that. My name is Josh Lasky. I am the Interim Assistant Vice President for University Resilience at GW. I oversee the Office of Sustainability, as well as the Office of Emergency Management and Environmental Health and Safety. I started as the Sustainability Director, and I had those two other units added to my portfolio about 8 months ago. So most of my career has been spent in and around green buildings and climate and sustainability and zero waste initiatives. And that's been my purview for the most part at GW until I took on emergency management and health and safety, which have been an interesting part of my professional journey. Little background there, but I've been trying to learn quickly and find ways to adopt synergy between sustainability and preparedness and safety, of which there are many, but it does require a little bit of combination of art and science to approach all that. So that's my perspective, and that is what I will sort of bring as I go through some slides today. Some of them are going to be repeat from what Yolanda just offered, which is great. She did a much better job than I could ever do providing an overview of BEPS, and hopefully that's somewhat familiar to most of you. And then I'll talk specifically about sort of where GW is in the journey and how we're approaching it. I will say that there are a couple folks on the call, I think, that I saw. So I've got Danielle Corsan from my team in the Office of Sustainability, and then Michael Rad was on, maybe he's still here. He's GW's energy manager. And some of you are probably familiar with Mansi Talvar. Mansi is the executive director of energy utilities and engineering at GW. And I think either a former or current member of the Green Building Advisory Council for the district. And she frankly sits quite close to some of the work on BEPS, and I offer a support role, but I'll be talking about sort of how this has helped us advance the sustainability work at GW. So let's go to the next slide. Enough of my bio and large face. That's your title slide. Not much to share there. Let's keep going. So the here's the context for GW. And this utility spend might actually be out of date already. Michael, if you have it, you can drop into the chat what our actual current utility spend is, because it goes up, as all of you probably know, quicker than we all want it to. But we spend close to $30 million a year on utilities. The majority of that is our electrical expense, about $18 million a year, plus another $5 in water and $5 in gas. We have over 130 buildings across 3 campuses, the largest of which is in the Foggy Bottom neighborhood, right in the heart of downtown DC. But we also have campuses out in the Palisades neighborhood. There's the Mount Vernon campus up there, about 7 or 8 buildings, about 1,000 undergraduate students live up there, and there's some classes we offer in those spaces, plus some recreational fields, athletic fields up there. So, and then we have our Ashburn campus out in Virginia. It's called the Virginia Science and Technology Campus. We have a handful of buildings out there that are spread out over several acres. So, and one other note is we have this 4.2 megawatt cogen plant that somewhat inconveniently runs on natural gas, which is a little bit of a thorn in the side for the sustainability folk like me at the university. But we try to adopt as practical and sort of business oriented an approach as we can to thinking about that cogen plant. It's only about 10 years old. And so getting rid of it is not really an option right now. And so how do you approach that if you're thinking about things like decarbonization or electrification? Talk about that a little bit. So we got a number of challenges, which are probably somewhat familiar to many of you. The number, variety, and age of our buildings is alone a challenge. I think the average building was built between 80 and 90 years ago in terms of its age and lifespan. We've got a mix of district and standalone systems, so it'd be really great if all of our buildings were tied to that central cogen plant, because we could really maximize, and optimize around that, a single loop. But that's not the case. The cogen operates in a way where it supports 6 buildings on campus, some of our largest buildings, but the rest are either small districts, kind of block at a time, or they're standalone systems. So we've got sort of a hybrid approach that we have to sort of manage around. Metering infrastructure is not probably what we'd want it to be. So we've got multiple buildings that are on a single meter. We don't have really any sub meters that would help us sort of optimize performance, where we'd really like to do that. But we're thinking about that, and we're trying to move toward that. You've got different regulatory landscapes. Obviously, we have the district, and we have Virginia for our VSTC campus. And then, we've got, different utilities in play for different buildings. And we just need to think about sort of how we source appropriately and how we manage those energy sources. And then we've got a massive deferred maintenance backlog. Again, probably not too unfamiliar to many of the other building owners and portfolio managers on the call, that it's one of those things where, it's, you have to crawl before you can walk, and you have to walk before you can run, kind of thing. And as someone who's sort of advancing and advocating for the sustainability stuff, I feel like I'm trying to get us to fly, and there are areas where we can't even crawl yet. So how do you reconcile that? It's not always easy. And then we've got this blend of sort of the regulatory landscape to navigate, plus some voluntary commitments that are frankly wildly ambitious. I came in to GW 3.5 years ago, but a year and a half before that, in 2020, our board of trustees committed us to carbon neutrality by 2030. And I knew it instantly that was not as practical a target as I wanted, but it was a lovely, bold ambition. And so I've tried to leverage that appropriately. The directive was to achieve that with minimal use of offsets. Unfortunately, it is not possible with minimal use of offsets, even if you are liberal with the interpretation of minimum. So I'm actually advising us to revisit that goal right now, much to the chagrin of myself and probably some other sustainability advocates, that are very much aligned with and supportive of carbon neutrality goals. I just happen to not like offsets. I do not like the credibility problems. I do not like the intangibility of the projects that you are supporting, and I'd rather use that money closer to home. So I can talk about that if we have some time and what I'm recommending where we head in the future. Let's go to the next slide. So this is a review for all of you. The only thing that's actually operative and significant on this slide is that non-compliance for GW would result in a maximum of $7.5 million. And so that fine actually becomes a really important metric to weave into our decision-making calculus at the university on how and where to invest our very limited resources. I am the kind of person where, like, if DC wants to create a regulation around energy or sustainability, I really do hope that there is teeth behind it. Because, an institution like GW, yes, there are resource constraints, but also, like, we have the ability to plan appropriately. And when we see an opportunity to avoid a $7.5 million fine, you bet we're going to take it. And so that was brought into some really important conversations about how we assess and manage and enhance our infrastructure on campus. And I've got a couple slides on our approach to doing just that and meeting compliance. Let's keep going to the next slide. I actually think that Yolanda's slide was better than this one, and the one pager that the Innovation Hub has is a perfect resource. Let's just skip this slide. This is just the step down in the compliance cycles for buildings that are subject to those to the BEPS regulation. Let's go to the next slide. This is where we'll get into sort of the business case for GW to invest in energy efficiency. So I think that historically, the roots of sustainability and energy management are very firmly in how do we do work that is paid from savings. I think if you're an institution that's yet to do deep retrofit work or has yet to do any real comprehensive energy conservation measure implementation, like, you can do that. But I think most of the organizations and businesses and institutions that are on a sustainability journey are way past the low-hanging fruit. And so now the challenge becomes, how wide can you open your aperture, and how much context can you bring in, and how holistic of an approach can you take when you're thinking about energy conservation. So I think, foundational level, we have increasing utility costs, and probably more than a 10% increase over the last 3 years annually. It is becoming a focal point for our CFO, like on a regular basis, how we get better at spending less money on utilities. We're seeing escalation in construction costs. So there is an actual cost that we've begun to assign to delaying infrastructure improvement work, right? Because the longer we wait, the more that equipment and materials and labor and all those other associated costs are going to go up. We obviously have BEPS. We have not just the regulatory requirement, but the embedded fine for non-compliance. I mentioned our Board of Trustees commitment to achieving carbon neutrality by 2030. And so we've got a bunch of different strategies there. But energy efficiency is a key pathway for eliminating, or I should say reducing, Scope 1 and 2 emissions. So our Scope 1, some of you are familiar with this, but that's our direct on-site emissions, comes from burning fossil gas, fossil fuels on campus. Scope 2 will come from our grid-sourced electricity emissions. And so to the extent that we can draw down on-site natural gas usage in our buildings, part of which will be achieved through BEPS compliance approaches, like that helps us achieve our carbon neutrality aspirations. We also, have this opportunity to modernize base building systems, our mechanical systems, while reducing operating costs. So it's not just about efficiency, but it's about tapping into this idea of reducing our ongoing overhead associated with building management. We probably, like many of you, have to deal with moisture and humidity issues in occupied spaces in buildings. We like to call it moisture management and not, addressing another M word. Sometimes we go as far as saying organic growth. We have it at GW. We are doing our darndest to address it. But to the degree we can modernize some of these systems and put in place better IAQ measures and air quality, and humidity control measures in the buildings, that's sort of another co-benefit. Obviously, we're enhancing our student experience if we're tapping into thermal comfort issues, which you could try to assign a monetary cost to, but it's more about the student experience and student wellness. And every complaint that comes in from a student, or frankly their parents, takes up time that would otherwise, could otherwise be dedicated to something else. So there's opportunity cost in sort of managing ongoing stream of complaints due to, hot and cold calls coming in. And then there's funding opportunities, right? So we can seek grants, we can tap into rebates. And so all of this becomes part of the calculus for investment in energy efficiency and helping us get, to a payback. Let's go to the next slide. So one of the things that we did, the sort of core strategy to approaching our BEPS compliance, was undertaking an energy services performance contract. And some of you may have been on either the client side or on the delivery side of this. I think this is a great vehicle for implementing ECMs. You can go back one slide to the sort of like zigzag. There we go. So I'm not going to go through this whole pathway here, but the ESPC again is kind of a core element of achieving our BEPS compliance. And we started with identifying the buildings that we thought needed to have some work done. And I mean, going back to what Yolanda was saying, this is why Energy Star Portfolio Manager is such an important tool, or whatever other software or platform you've got to do analysis, and look at trends. But your buildings are, you're going to be able to identify where you're hemorrhaging money and wasting energy. And to the degree that you can identify that and layer in operational issues, maintenance issues, occupant comfort issues, then you get this sort of well-rounded picture of what needs attention. We did a whole bunch of stakeholder engagement sort of in relation to that, to talk to building occupants, our building managers, folks in the academic side who manage labs and research spaces, which are energy intensive. And then we engaged with a company to do some audit work. We've had a number of level 1, level 2 audits over the years, but then we moved and we sort of pivoted into a more intensive approach, known as an investment grade audit. And this is where we actually worked with Southland, who eventually became our partner for the energy performance contract. But at the time, they did this investment grade audit, which is a combination of a level 3 audit plus a very detailed, granular approach to understanding project feasibility, and doing some initial M&B work, to sort of kind of underscore the credibility or the accuracy of some of the building data that we'd already had on hand through utility bills, FCAs previously done, the level 1 and 2 audits, et cetera. So we then moved into a financial feasibility, which involved the basically building out of long-term projections for what our project costs, ongoing costs would be, inclusive of time and materials, and having Southland come in and actually do the energy conservation measure installation, implementation that they were talking about, and thinking about some novel approaches to making the money work well, which include not just rebates and some grants, but also thinking about solar in a progressive way. So it's a little bit unique, maybe not unique, because I think other people in DC have already realized this, but our market here for solar RECs is extraordinary. It's a shame that every rooftop in the city is not completely covered with PV. And that's because the going rate for SRECs right now is probably about 100 times the national average, right? If you just unbundled RECs, they're maybe $2 or $3 or $4. Ours sell for $350 or $415 right now, something like that. So anyway, so we brought in solar and SREC sales as a way to finance the building improvements we were doing, which drastically brought down our simple payback. So, but that's technically not an efficiency measure, right? But it becomes part of that, opening up of the aperture, broadening the view, and taking a more holistic approach that allows you to find sort of complementary, projects or sort of strategies to get to greater feasibility. So anyway, and then we moved into stakeholder approval. So Monsi and her team led an effort to work with our VP of Safety and Operations and engage our CFO and say, here's the outlook, here's how the numbers could work, here's the total cost, and sought approval, and we got that approval. So let's go to the next slide. We can talk about some of the nuts and bolts here and details. And I can't speak deeply to some of this, but I'll give you a high level sort of surface kind of story. So there's a little bit of like a 10-year analysis here, just to show you kind of how things looked. We were able to tap into several $1 million worth of grants and rebates. We were able to take advantage of 179D rebate, which I think many of you might have experience with, plus that SREC revenue. The SREC revenue was like essential to making this project work. And then a bunch of utility rebates came along the way. So we did factor in BEPS penalty avoidance in this calculus, and obviously the utility savings gained through conservation measures that we do, and our return on investment was less than 8 years. So as a result, we decided to finance this in-house. So typically, when you do an energy performance contract, you have an option to go outside and get third-party financing. So you can go to a bank, you can go, some of these larger, firms that do the work might have large enough balance sheet where they can cover it and give you their own interest rate. But we were able to save on that interest rate by doing it in-house and tapping into essentially endowment funding to make this work, given that the payback was so soon. So more than half of the savings were going to come from lighting retrofits. I think we've now completed 45,000 light fixture retrofits on campus, which is a massive undertaking. A bunch of it was BAS work, and then the rest was envelope work, steam traps, a bunch of others, and then you can see the PV. The revenue from doing the PV and selling SRECs was a huge chunk of this. Almost a quarter of the revenue picture, which is really great. So let's go to the next slide. So I think I kind of already alluded to this, but yeah, project scope included lighting in 37 buildings, over 5 million square feet worth of lighting was addressed. We did 45,000 fixtures on campus. It's the PV project included, I think we ended up at 10 rooftops, not 12. Could be 12 maybe. We're still getting final drawings for these systems and what the mounts will look like, and what a rooftop array, sort of like arrangement is going to look like for some of these. We actually decided not to move forward with the ground mount system out at Virginia campus for a couple of reasons. But one of them is, we want to retain a little bit of flexibility for how we're using that space in the future, which is a feasible reason to avoid PV. PV is typically a 30 to 40 year commitment. So you want to do PV, to be ready to have that PV there for several decades. And then I mentioned some of the other measures that we've got in place, some HVAC and BMS system work. I mentioned the envelope and insulation around doors and windows, improving some transformers, and then I mentioned steam traps. So that the majority of this was lighting. The fact that we hadn't done LED conversion for a good majority of the buildings was a real opportunity, and so I'm glad we took advantage of that. So I think I've got 2 more slides. Let's go to that next slide. So I think a lot of other folks are probably experiencing a similar chart to this one. This is EUI, this is energy consumption overall. It's carbon emissions. It's a bunch of other graphs that look like this, but we had this nice pleasant valley during the pandemic where we saw a decline in usage, where everyone used energy at home instead of at the office or in our buildings. But then that went back up as soon as people came back. And the party resumed. But I think over the next several years, we're hoping to actually dip well below our target. So our target, for GW's Foggy Bottom campus is 241 kBTU per SF. Everyone's target's gonna be a little bit different just based on performance, but that's what we're aiming for, and we're hoping that we've got enough momentum with the work that we're doing in the ESPC to take us well under our target, for BEPS, which is great. So let's go to that next slide. And I think this is my last slide. Thanks for bearing with me here. So I think this is mostly sort of review at this point, but key takeaways here: the more that you can position energy conservation work and energy management in service to other goals, the better. And that's also how I'm broadly positioning sustainability. I'm doing less of the, hey, isn't this important, friends and colleagues, and more of like, well, I see that you've got this priority and you've got this challenge. How can my planned work and my aspiration be beneficial to advance your priority and your goal? And I think once you do that, I think you unlock a whole lot of opportunity, and you make better friends too. The posture of like kind of waiting with my hand out and being like, where's my money, for sustainability? I've long abandoned that because it's just now's not the time. In fact, I keep reading stories about how offices of sustainability are getting their staff cut. Some are being eliminated altogether. University of Florida no longer has an office of sustainability, and I'm like, most days I wake up and I'm like, I got a job, great. I got the ability to wheel and deal and make collaborations work. Let's do this. Oh, we've got a BEPS requirement. Oh, I've got a 2030 carbon neutrality requirement for the time being. Like, how are we going to make this work? And so, finding those opportunities to do a lot of things at once is the goal. So I think the other thing, and Monsi and Michael have sort of professed this, if you find the right partner early, it makes a lot of work down the line much easier. So like investing time in vetting your partners and interviewing and having exploratory discussions, that stuff pays off, and it pays off in frustration and time and money. Because the more you can sort of do with one team and through one partnership, the better, and the more you're gonna get done. So take those referrals, do your interviews, have the conversations, all that. And then that business case, I've already kind of talked about this, but explore everything you possibly can. One thing I haven't talked about is the social cost of carbon. I don't think I've been effective at selling this, quite frankly, internally, because it's still a little squishy, but I think we're getting there, and I've introduced it. So hopefully we'll get to the point where there becomes more of a culture of appreciation for the social cost of carbon, which, I think the New York City or New York State uses like a $250 a metric ton figure, something like that. NIST has like 3 categories of social costs of carbon. So you kind of have to define that for your own institution. And then the stakeholder engagement stuff, I think, is really important. So like how often can you bring in, folks? How many champions can you make out of these folks? Finding that strategic alignment between your priorities is really important, and then coming back to them often with updates, and not just like come to the kickoff meeting, and come to the report at the very end a year later. Like that's not great engagement. How do you get these people on board and keep them informed and make them feel empowered, like they're helping to advise and influence your decision making, and hopefully they actually are. So, all right, lot of talking. I see folks coming off video probably to tell me to wrap it up and take my award trophy and get off stage. I'm in Emmy watching mode still. But anyway, I would love questions. Would love to talk more, do a lot of thinking on strategy, and would love to hear from y'all. So thanks for giving me the time and space. I appreciate it.
Thank you for sharing all of that information. I think this is truly things that some other universities really need to see. It kind of helps gauge their conversation and their path in doing this. And that's one of the reasons why I really wanted you on the call, because I know that you've done it and I know that you can help other universities understand how to do it as well. So no, thank you for sharing that information. We really appreciate it. And with that, I will hand it off to DCSEU. Yvonne.
Good afternoon, everyone. Josh, you're a hard act to follow. I want to welcome everyone again. Thank you for taking the time today. I am Yvonne Coles, the Manager of Account Management here at the DCSEU, and I handle not only college and universities, but hospitals and healthcare, as well as low-income multifamily buildings. So I have been working with a lot of you all, and would love to continue working with you more as we try to reach these carbon neutrality goals. So if you are not already familiar with the DCSEU, we are a community-minded organization committed to making energy efficient and clean energy more accessible to every person and business in the district. We've been doing so since 2011, where we've helped district residents and businesses generate more than 1.4 billion in lifetime energy cost savings. We provide the industry leading learning opportunities, expert hands-on assistance, and vital financial support that save our communities both energy and money. So I always try to tell my customers, please let's not leave any money on the table. Any projects you have, let me know. GW has been a great partner, Josh, so I thank you for your leadership in ensuring that that continues to happen. All right, you can go to the next slide. So how we're doing that is through customer engagement with universities. I'm working with the universities personally, the different campuses across the city and commercial buildings in various ways. One of those ways is that I hold monthly meetings with my partners to be proactive and identify project opportunities and present potential incentive options for them. We develop savings estimates and the economic benefits that are based on the conservative analysis methodology for implementing more efficient equipment. Again, we not only support the colleges and universities in the city, but any satellite locations in DC as well. We are only working within the district. And then I want to also let you all know that we accept district-based students in our workforce development and summer internship program. So please consider that as an option for your students. We've maintained this partnership, as you all have heard already this morning, like the Building Innovation Hub, to create resources for BEPS support. And then FY24, we completed a 50,001 Ready cohort for universities through a structured program focused on implementing energy management practices and processes through our partnership with our parent organization, VEIC, and those participants receive program materials and tools to develop and that's developed and supported by the U.S. Department of Energy. And some of you all participated in that, and I want to thank you again for your participation in that cohort. That was very helpful. I'm hopeful for your universities. Next slide. So the pathways to incentives and technical assistance. We have two very good ways for you all to work with us. You can receive those incentives or rebates through self-service by going on our website. If you've chosen a contractor and you are completing a particular equipment within a defined timeline, you can go on our website and apply for those rebates directly. It is up to 100,000 per commercial customer threshold for those rebates, or 15,000 per residential customer threshold. That's the threshold for each type of rebate. But you can also receive a custom incentive, which is the custom service, where you work with, like myself or another account manager and also to work with energy consultant to review your project and get that third-party review, technical assistance, and then receive an incentive value tied to the project's energy savings. It has to be something that is calculated and goes above building code. Next slide. So those business rebates are set amounts where you can apply for them. It's based on lighting, motors, HVAC, refrigeration, food service vending, lawn care. You can apply for them directly from our website. Two things I do want to mention, two options are also the air purifiers and the dehumidifiers. Josh brought it up for indoor air quality. Those things help. So if you want to apply for those for your campus, please do so because we are nearing the end of the fiscal year. And then, of course, the instant rebates with distributors you can also apply for. Next slide. Next, we have the custom incentive. So this is where you would work with an account manager like myself to receive the energy analysis, and it would be based on LED lighting and controls, HVAC equipment, HVAC control strategies and retro commissioning, refrigeration management and leak detection. And in order to do so, if you're not already working with an account manager, like if this was not a university and you weren't working with me, you could go on our website and click on the custom project, or you could book a time with account manager based on your building type, or you could call the line directly. And you can see all of this on our website, the DCSEU.com starter project. But as your university account manager, just email me. Let me know the project that you're working on or you have planned. Send me the scope of work or a proposal from your vendor. Let me know the timeline that you're going to complete this, because everything we do, we want to make sure that we're managing the time that we would need to provide the incentive to you. And I need to understand what it is you're doing and what the current situation is and what your planned outcome will be, and then the time that you're going to do it so that we can get it in our system. Next slide. And so that next step would be doing the custom savings analysis. So I would make sure that one of our engineering consultants reviews that opportunity. We can identify any opportunities through site walkthroughs if necessary. We provide no cost technical assistance. They would analyze the project, come up with that energy savings based on your vendor quote or operations and controls adjustments, and provide that cash flow and return on investment. And then you could see the impact of that work to demonstrate that to your decision holders or decision makers and in any leadership that you have, and then provide what that reduced operations and maintenance cost would be. So that is the analysis that's performed. Next slide. All right. And you can go to the next one. Thank you. So just as a FYI for you all, as I stated, I also handle affordable multifamily housing. So these are some of the projects or programs that we have for the low income affordable housing. So low income comprehensive is same is our custom on the low income side. Income Qualified Efficiency Fund, IQEF for short. It's a program that is offered every fiscal year. And then we have the Retrofit Accelerator program, and Affordable Multifamily Electrification program. And then we also provide low income energy kits. So that's just as an FYI of the offerings that we have. Next slide, please. Another area that we offer is free training. So this is for any DC-based contractor or DC resident. We do provide Train Green. So there are multiple trainings that we offer throughout the fiscal year. And I try to tell my customers to please make sure that you check our website periodically for these offerings, because it is free training that will help you in your career path, as well as the getting certifications. So take a look at that. If there's anything that you it piques your interest, please go on our website and apply for those courses. They are free. Next slide. All right, and big picture of myself as well. If you haven't booked time with me, and we have not met, please do so. You can scan this QR code to book a time on my calendar to discuss your project. If you don't already have my information, it will you can do that here, but I will put it in the chat as well. It's a pleasure to work with the universities in the city, and I'm here at your service whenever you need.
I'll take it. Thank you to everybody again, and enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.